2023, I had a surgery coming up on my Achilles tendon that was going to leave me practically incapacitated for several months, and we wanted to make sure to get a quick trip in. We wanted to get a place that was within a 3-hour flight. We wanted to have a place that was close to good Chinese food. We wanted to go someplace with cooler weather, but most importantly, we wanted to go to a place with good public transportation because we were not planning to rent a car. So obviously, that meant we were going to Vancouver. We touched down after a very quick flight on Flair Airlines. By the way, Flair Airlines is supposed to be the worst airline of Canada, basically Canada's Spirit Airlines. The website needs some work, the check-in process needs a lot of work, but we took off on time, we landed on time, everything was pretty safe. The seats weren't the best, but I mean, for a budget airline, it's fine, especially for a 3-hour flight.
Dinner/happy hour at Fanny Bay Oyster Bar. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And the bill was around $100. I think it was totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
If we had it in Los Angeles, it's going to be much, much more expensive.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The quality and the service and the value, it was fantastic. So
yeah, we got some really, really good oysters for, I think, what is it, cheaper than you would get at Whole Foods?
I know it's $2 each, can't believe it, and it's Canadian dollars, so it's less than $2.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy.
Big time yum yums.
After dinner, we decided to rest up at our Airbnb in nearby Richmond since we had an eventful next day planned.
It's a rainy, cold day in Vancouver, so we decided to come to dim sum for our very first brunch. We're at Yat-Sen Garden. So the fun part is most of the Chinese gardens looking like this outside of China actually hired a lot of craftsmen and like master craftsmen coming from Suzhou to help build it. And according to this brochure, 53 craftsmen came here from Suzhou and spending 13 months in Vancouver to build this garden. So that was a lot of effort. Yeah. And I hope they had a good time here as well, because it does feel like home with the rain and the humidity and the huge Chinese population, the community here with a lot of amazing Chinese restaurants. Mm-hmm. So I hope they had a wonderful time while they worked here and also had a little bit of fun. But I would say you cannot tell it's outside of Suzhou. And I'm a Suzhou native, so that says a lot. Another thing is always like daunting to me is that people from ancient time seems to figure out a long time ago that when people are close to nature, they're the most content. So these gardens are part of their daily routine, part of their lives, day-to-day lives. And they have built all these like leak windows, for example. Is such a great way to blend nature with building so that you can see through and bring this transparency coming to your home. This is another piece of artwork, which is an embroidery screen of peonies and 100 butterflies crafted by an artist in Suzhou. So it has come a long way.
This feels very familiar to a garden that I went to in Suzhou, my first trip to China. It was the Humble Administrator's Garden. And what sticks out is 7 years ago in 2016, that was actually where I proposed to Faith. Because I thought, if I'm going to do it, might as well do it in one of the most beautiful looking places I've ever been to. And yeah, this brings back a lot of nostalgia.
Something super exquisite about these Chinese gardens, or I'll call them sushi gardens, this details in scales of designs. And for example, when you come here, you have this very beautiful guardrails, but you can see the bench is not that big. Other than the intention for you to sit here is like that, so that you can see the garden while you're sitting here, instead of sitting here like that. So the design was very intentional to kind of draw your attention, draw your view to the pond and to the nature. Like every perspective that you're looking, it's always a different view. All the walls are almost semi-transparent, so you can always see some things going on from another area, another courtyard, another pond, or another room. So it's like a lot of things going on at the same time, but you don't feel busy or chaotic. It's like a lot of things going on, but still feel relaxed. I guess that's why this is so masterful.
After a nice stroll in the garden, we found a highly rated coffee shop called Prototype. Prototype has a really cool store with baristas' work on full display. John had a grapefruit raspberry donut waffle with an espresso sip. And I paired mine with a hops and matcha flavor. I left the coffee shop with a bag of freshly roasted beans for souvenir. Of course I have to. I'm so glad we got some good warm coffee. We need it for what came next.
So, what are we doing?
I can barely speak. It's too cold. We have been in line for an hour to go into Vancouver Art Gallery. Today happened to be the first Friday that's free to the public. So everybody's being in line and it's cold. It's not cold, it's freezing and rainy. And we've been here for an hour. I kind of regret it, but we're almost there. So hopefully it's hot inside, so we can kind of shake up this coldness.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's all about experience, right?
I'm so sorry, I should have dragged you here.
Once we got inside, we experienced some pretty and interesting collections of modern art, but to be frank, we were feeling a bit underwhelmed. Large swaths of the gallery were closed off to prepare for future exhibits, and given that we stood in line for over an hour in the cold and rain, this was feeling a bit underwhelming. Until we explored a large exhibit on Indigenous filmmaker and activist Alanis Obamsawin. The exhibit traced her life as an activist standing up for Indigenous rights in Canada, highlighting her amazing documentaries that illustrated contemporary colonialism in Canada that had been pushing Indigenous communities out of their native homelands, often by violent means. It's a piece of history that I was not fully aware of, and was so thankful to have the opportunity to learn about this very important issue that Indigenous people still face, not only in Canada, but across the world.
So Vancouver has a really huge population of Chinese immigrants. I think it counted for more than 20%, which is a really great number. Living in LA already spoiled us for all these authentic food all over the world, including Chinese cuisine. But I was craving for something special this time, Suzhounese cuisine, because it's really hard to find outside of China. And Cantonese food and Sichuan food are easier to find, but Suzhounese food are really difficult because their flavor profile is more nuanced and it requires the freshest seasonal ingredients. But Vancouver did not get the reputation of high-quality Chinese food for nothing. There's one Suzhounese restaurant only 5 minutes away from our Airbnb in Richmond, and we really enjoyed it.
First thing we order is a cold dish that is bean curd with a very special vegetable that only eaten in springtime. So May is like perfect time to eat it because it's very seasonal.
We ordered a few classics from Suzhounese cuisine, and one really stood out, and that is fish mole stew. And it really reminds me of my grandma because my grandma used to make some of these stews like in the past because she doesn't want to waste anything from a big old fish. And that flavor and the texture is just so unique, and it's just so heartwarming after a long cold day, and it was just like really, really nice.
So this one's a very traditional dish that's called fried eel.
I remember during my first trip to Suzhou, whenever we had dinner with Faith's parents, we had this, and it blew my mind. And every time we go to Suzhou, I have it, and it blows my mind. So I'm really, really excited to try this out. I feel like a lot of the food draws its flavor just from the bare ingredients that makes up the dish. And that's the signature of Suzhou cuisine that I love. It makes me want to go back all the time. Is you know you're going to have food that isn't going to make you feel regret afterwards. It makes you feel refreshed. It's a testament to Suzhou cuisine. You really can't beat it.
Another thing unexpected from this restaurant is the owner used to work at the same hotel that we had our wedding reception. What a coincidence. Although he actually moved to Canada a long time ago, but it's still fun to make that connection. And we showed wedding photos to the owner's wife, and she actually recognized all of these places in the hotel.
So at the end of an eventful first day in Vancouver, there was a lot of things we did. What were your favorites?
I would say one being cafe, because playing cats always made us feel happy and at peace. But the second thing will be the Yat-Sen Garden, because I'm living all my elements as a girl from Suzhou.
One of the cool things about Vancouver, there's so many things that are accommodating to a lot of different people with a lot of different niches that they live in. And so we're gonna dive really deep into that in the next episode. We'll see you then.
Au revoir. Bye.